Okay, so now the rest of that question. And in an age of Brazilians, not meaning Brazilian people, but Brazilian hair removal fashion, I think, is what we're talking about here. Spray tans, deodorant, plastic surgery, etc., etc. What are some of the ways we can encourage women to be natural, primal, instinctive, and comfortable with their bodies in labor? Well, I think we have to talk about it, and we have to notice that, I address these subjects very strongly in this book here because I'm really concerned about the propaganda that is so just so pervasive in today's culture. And I think a lot of young people don't think they are affected by it, but they are, because they're not afraid of surgery. And it's a natural thing for a human to be afraid of surgery. It's actually kind of a healthy thing to be afraid of surgery. Does that seem like a novel thought? I hope not. And if we could do one thing as midwives to change society's beliefs about birth and install it once again as a normal physiological life event, what would be the most powerful? I've always thought it would be really kind of cool if I could, some of the videos that of births I've assisted at could be shown on television without editing. I hope that can happen someday. But it hasn't happened yet. And well, actually it did once. It happened in Austin, Texas back in 1980, and it got the show canceled, even though everybody liked it, except the show's producer. Or the station, I think it was the station manager, actually, who took the show off the air after that. Googly asks, I would like to ask, I did that one. Now it's Suzanne84. Can you expand on your theory of love gets the baby in, love gets the baby out? I noticed that I remember a couple kissing each other in labor, and I thought, that's relaxing. I didn't have to help her with her breathing. She didn't have to sort of watch me for cues about how long the breaths and how deep the breaths. And I thought, well, kissing if the kiss is a really good one, will keep you from cogitating and keeping all your blood supply up here in your forebrain, and it will let it descend to the business end. That's the business end, is when you're giving birth. You want more of your blood to slosh downward, because then your vagina won't be so tiny. Get bigger. And so we also know that a good kiss will trigger oxytocin, and that means that because oxytocin and adrenaline are antagonistic, it will automatically be associated with deeper breathing and less pain. You'll also have some neuroendorphins kick in, so you'll have nature's opiate at work. Pain can turn to pleasure rather quickly. So really practical people could take advantage of that. I was just staying with a doula friend who learned something from one of her clients, and she said the client, it was her first birth with this doula, and she said, well, we might want, she referring to her partner and her, we might not want you to be in the same room with us all the time, and that would be all right. And then she kind of shyly said, because, and you might even, just to let you know, on the other side of the door, if you hear a sound that's like bzzz, she realized that she was talking about that she was going to bring her vibrator. Oh, well, that'll be fine. That'll be great. If you want to bring a lot of blood to the genital area, whatever works. So whether it's a kiss, whether it's a vibrator, be alone with your partner, being in the shower, that's what's going to help. And let's face it, we women give birth with our sexual organ. How could anybody not think that sexuality would have something to do with childbirth? And when you really think about it, you have to, I think, realize that the divorce of sexuality from birth-giving and talk about birth-giving entered in only when men came into the bedroom. Because these guys were in somebody else's bedroom, some other man's bedroom. They had to make this pretense that they weren't going to be touching other men's wives' genital area. So now that we can talk about this, and it's time that we did, I think we have to realize that sexuality has everything to do with birth, and ideas that it shouldn't are just plain weird. Okay. Millie718 says, how do you maintain your belief in normality and women's right to informed choice when faced with so many that are against these concepts? Just because I'm stubborn, I guess, and because I've seen so much good birth that I couldn't imagine doing anything different. What makes midwives continue to fight the system? Stubbornness, knowing we're right, and knowing that things can change. There are about 170 male midwives in the UK. If there would be something like a conference for male midwives only and you would give the opening speech, what would I say to them? Pippoed. I would say it's not quite the same. You can't do everything that a female midwife can do. So I hope you're easy with that. I hope you understand that. You have to be oh so careful not to usurp her man's place. You have to be very careful that she doesn't fall in love with you. That's kind of important. You don't want to alienate her affections for her man, and it is imprinting time. So there are certain kinds of intimacies that you'll have to be careful. On the other hand, I know a male midwife in Belgium who's just kind of great, but he has the ability to, he's very small for one thing, and it helps that he has these little hands, and I think he kind of sneaked in because he has a name that could be either a man's or a woman's. But he's very comfortable with powerful women and letting them be more powerful than they knew they were. He tells a very funny story of a woman who she gravitated to the kitchen. He was just chasing her all over the house because it wasn't obvious where she would give birth, but they really found a good place where she was up on her kitchen counter and he was kneeling before her. And I thought he was a pretty good teacher at that. I'm trying to get him out because he's a great storyteller and I think he has the right attitude. Suzanne84 asks, how do you support the father's emotional needs as well as the mother's? You have to talk to men and find out, talk to dads and find out what scares them, what makes them tick, what's going through their minds. Because they often feel helpless. They often feel a need to protect. And that can be channeled well, but they have to be able to flow in the moment. They have to realize that she's the leader of the dance, and they're going to follow. And so sometimes it might be that the mother doesn't need you at all at the moment. Maybe the dad is the one who's most emotionally needy at a given moment. I can remember a birth when it was this way. The mother wandered off. It was her first baby, and there had been some time when she was gazing in her man's eyes, and I think maybe he thought that in his romantic notion that was going to be the way she continued to labor. There came a time when she needed to move away from him, away from me, go up to the top of the stairs and just be with herself for a while, and I think it hurt his feelings a little bit, so I needed to stay rather than go up with her. I needed to make him feel okay about what was going on and reassure him that it wasn't she was mad at him, it's just that she needed to be alone for a little while. And then it did happen that she came downstairs and was ready to push the baby out. And he became a very necessary part of the birth furniture, actually, because she then began leaning on him. And it wasn't too long before she was actually lying on top of him. And he's like, I can't breathe. And she said, stay there, the baby's coming out. So the baby was quickly born, and it turned out to be very fulfilling for him, too. He said, he ended up saying that was probably the most close a man could be to the feeling of giving birth, because there was the baby kicking between his legs as well as between hers. Someone missing asked, do you believe that young childless women can be good, competent midwives? Yes, I do. And I think that there were just tons of these really good, competent midwives during the period after World War I, World War II, during and after. There were so many women who, so many millions of men were killed that there was no one to marry. And so polygamy wasn't legal in Europe. So there were lots of women who had a need to be around babies, who were able to then go into midwifery and have satisfying careers where they could, love on babies and stuff like that. And I met a bunch of them, so they taught me you don't have to have had a baby to be a good, competent midwife. Philly asks, Michelle Odon believes women who have had bad, over-medicalized birthing experiences themselves cannot be good midwives because they themselves have not experienced a normal natural birth. Do you believe this to be true? No. I was one of them. And I think that, although I wasn't fully trained at the start, I think I learned by negative example what not to do. I learned that kindness and compassion is essential. And that's all I had. That was the only skill I had with me, I would say, at the first few births. And that was enough to get us through until I had to know more. And luckily I learned it before someone suffered from my ignorance.